Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to video number 7 in our unit on supply and demand. I'm Miss Jennifer Blank, and today we're going to really blow your mind with simultaneous shifts of the supply and demand curves, price ceilings, and price floors. This is where we get into some policies, so it should be good times. So, keywords: price ceiling, efficiency, black markets, and price floor. So pay attention to these key terms. These are key vocab. All right, so simultaneous shifts. What happens when both supply and demand curves shift simultaneously? What does that look like exactly? Let's take a gander, shall we? All right, so if you have a simultaneous rightward shift of the demand curve and a leftward shift of the supply curve, this is what's going to happen. Ooh, oh damn snap. Look at this madness. Okay, so we have the demand curve shift out and the supply curve shift in, right? That gives us a new equilibrium here. We have an increase in quantity and an increase in price. Interesting. The increase in demand is relatively larger than the decrease in supply, so the equilibrium price rises and the equilibrium quantity increases. In this case, the degree of shift of demand was much larger, was much higher than the degree of shift in supply. So like with everything else, what we're exploring is really a matter of degrees. Another example. So, what happens here? We're going to have a simultaneous rightward shift of demand and a leftward shift of supply, right? Ooh, so here it's the opposite. You have a comparatively larger shift of supply and a comparatively smaller shift of demand. So in this instance, you have a decrease in quantity, but still an increase in price. Oh, here we go. Yet another one. Are we excited yet? All right, so this is a way that we can try to make predictions about outcomes when supply and demand curves shift simultaneously. So what I want you to do is pause the video, or if you need to, rewind and look at the 2 previous scenarios we just went over, okay? I want you to take a guess as to what's going to happen where the question marks are, all right? So I want you to draw this chart, take out a piece of paper, draw this chart, and then I want you to take a guess, make a prediction. If demand increases and supply increases, what do you think is going to happen to price? And with all these situations here. So pause the video, draw out this little chart, and take some guesses, all right? I'll wait. And then I want you to check your answers. All right, let's see how you did. Were you correct? Now, if you weren't correct, let's explore why. You need to think about what happens when they shift simultaneously and why price goes up or down and why quantity goes up or down. We're going to practice with these things in class, so don't panic. We're going to do a lot of practice problems so everybody's on the same page. Okay, so let's look at a scenario. The market for apartments in the absence of government controls. So this is when the market is fully in control. There is no government intervention. It's just the market doing its thing, okay? So in theory, when the market is doing its thing, this is our equilibrium quantity. 2 million apartments at $1,000 a month. Okay, that's the equilibrium quantity. And over here, you see both a demand and a supply schedule, okay, along with monthly rents, okay? There is our equilibrium, okay? Without government intervention, the market for apartments will reach equilibrium at point E with a market of rent of $1,000 per month and 2 million apartments rented. Okay, so this is without government controls, the market just working its magic. Invisible hand at work. Let's look at what happens when a price ceiling is imposed. So here's our equilibrium, okay? Ooh, a price ceiling. Ooh, that means that it can go no higher. Okay, so if you have a ceiling in your apartment, you can't go higher than the ceiling, theoretically, right? So that's the cap. That's the max that you can go. So in this instance, the government has imposed a price ceiling of $800 a month, meaning that landlords are not allowed to charge more than $800 a month for apartments. What is this going to cause? Does this look familiar? Does this perhaps look like a shortage? Oh, look at that. Look at the shortage. Oh, this price ceiling has caused a shortage of 400,000 apartments. Ooh, so what does that mean? Well, let's explore this. So now the the people, the 1.8 million people who did get apartments, they are loving life. They got an extra $200 in their pocket. They're going to go out to dinner. They're going to go see a movie. They're going to go have a good time. They're going to maybe put more in the savings account. Maybe they're going to go shopping. I'd go to Ann Taylor, maybe Banana Republic. I like my stores. Who doesn't? Maybe we'll go to Best Buy. We'll buy some pretty new electronics. I don't know. But so those 1.8 million people are feeling good. But you know what sucks for those 400,000? Yeah, they're homeless. Yeah, they don't have a house. Like, there's nowhere for them to be because there aren't enough apartments. So you just put 400,000 people out in the street with your price ceiling. Those 1.8 million are in great shape, but the 400,000 people are not loving life right now. They are not very happy. Price ceilings cause inefficiency. Okay? A market or economy is considered inefficient if there are missed opportunities. Some people could be made better off without making people worse off. That's the definition of efficiency. The second you start making some people worse off, even if some people are getting a good deal, if you are not doing right by some people, you are not efficient. Okay? In order to be efficient, you have to make some people better off without making anyone worse off, okay? Efficiency is very, very important in economics. Price ceilings often lead to inefficiency in the forms of inefficient allocation to consumers, wasted resources, and inefficiently low quality. Think about it. If the landlords were forced to drop their prices and lose $200, then they have to figure out a way to offset that cost. So your maintenance is not going to be as good. They're not going to repaint the building as often, right? If you have a plumbing issue, people aren't going to be as quick to respond. Maybe it's going to take, instead of 24 hours or less, maybe it's going to take a week before they come to fix your air conditioner. Okay, so you're going to have low quality of things. They also produce this thing called black markets. Let's explore that for a second. So why are there price ceilings, right? Well, they hurt most residents, but they give a small minority of renters much cheaper housing than they would get in an unregulated market. So you're helping out some people who can't afford it, right? Who need help, but in return, you're making several people worse off. Most people are being made worse off here for a small minority of people to have better housing. So those who benefit from the controls are better organized and more influenced, usually, than those who are harmed by them. Now, in this case, we're looking at housing. Okay, but you could easily look at this with tax policies and big corporations, for example, right? So those people, those corporations are much better off with the current tax code, which is an absolute epic disaster. It's like ridiculous. I mean, who can follow that stuff? But those people are better off. The rest of us are left holding, we're left with the check, right? We got to pay the tab. So when price ceilings have been in effect for a long time, buyers don't even have a realistic idea of what would even happen without them, right? We're so used to having it there that we're almost afraid of taking it away because, oh God, what might happen if it goes bye-bye, right? So government officials, this is the other problem. They often don't understand supply and demand analysis. So when you look at like the ridiculous policies that are made by the United States government, it's probably because either these people didn't pay attention in their economics classes or they never had them. But either way, they don't understand supply and demand. And this is why we get stupid government policies that actually don't do what they should be doing. So remember that when you're voting. Okay, so let's look at the market for butter. Here's another example in the absence of government controls, right? This is pure free market. Invisible hand is doing its thing. All things equal, in theory, this is our equilibrium. Okay, we got $1 per pound for the butter and 10 pounds supplied and demanded, right? So without government intervention, here's our equilibrium. Everybody's happy. Everybody who wants butter gets it. And the suppliers get the price that they want for it. Let's see what happens if we have a price floor. What is going to happen to the market with a price floor? In this instance, the government has decided you cannot charge less than $1.20. Okay, you have to charge a minimum of $1.20. So what is that going to cause? Oh, golly, bee jeepers, a butter surplus. Because you know what? There's plenty of people who just don't want to pay the $1.20, right? They just don't want to pay it. So you're going to have a surplus, okay? There's going to be too much butter in the market because we decided to mess with the free market. Price floors, surprise, also cause an inefficiency, okay? The most familiar price floor is a favorite topic of conversation of late. the minimum wage. Price floors are also commonly imposed on agricultural goods. Okay, FDR was famous for this during the Great Depression, trying to help farmers and get people out of the doldrums of the Depression. He instituted some of these policies. Price floors often lead to inefficiency in the following ways: inefficient allocation of sales among sellers, wasted resources, inefficiently high quality. So you are getting like absolutely freaking fantastic, stupendous butter, right? But really, do I want to pay that much more money for like the best butter ever? You know, I mean, really, if we're thinking about efficient use of our resources, you know, the regular butter would do just fine. Why do I got to go buy like, you know, the freaking luxury butter? Why do I go buy why do I got to go buy that special butter, right? This can also provide an incentive for illegal activity, i.e., well, it's black labor, but this is labor in the black market. This is also known as working under the table. Because if you work under the table, you and the employer can agree on a price. Okay, you can decide, yeah, I will work for this if you guarantee me work. Oh, okay, great. So I'll hire you for this, and then nobody's got to pay taxes, and you can avoid a lot of fees, right? So a lot of people work under the table. Babysitting is common. I mean, how many babysitters, teenage babysitters, those of you, are you filing tax returns and claiming your wages to the government? No, you're not. That allows you to command a higher price for yourself. So why are there price floors? Price floors benefit some influential sellers, right? Unions would be a common one with regard to the minimum wage, right? Government officials believe the relevant market is poorly described by supply and demand, mainly because they don't understand it. So if you're going to like knock it, maybe you should at least like understand it like a little bit, like just a tad, like slightly. Because I can guarantee you that if you roll up to Capitol Hill and you just grab any senator, I don't care who it is, grab anybody. You know, pick the majority and minority leaders. Let's go with McConnell and Reid. And you go talk to them, and you ask them to break down supply and demand for you. I would be willing to bet a whole lot of money that neither one of them could do it. I bet, but these are the people that are setting our policy. This is why we need to be concerned. Government officials do not understand the supply and demand model. They don't understand. They don't want to understand because they want people to vote for them. So they don't want to talk about the supply and demand model. They don't want to talk about inefficiencies on either end. No. The people want what they want, and they want to give the people what they want so that they get elected. So your job as the voter is to understand this so you can hold the politicians accountable because they are making lousy policies. Economics in action. Let's look at this. Okay, this is the case, black labor in Southern Europe. So under the table labor. Minimum wage is a price floor, right? In many European countries, the minimum wages are actually a lot higher than the U.S., and employers are required to pay for health and retirement benefits. This adds significant costs onto the employers. This makes the cost of hiring a European worker a lot more than the actual paycheck. It's not just the hourly wage or their salary. You've got to think about paying for their retirement. You've also got to think about paying their health care, which in many cases is worth more than their actual salary. Minimum wage is well above the market clearing wage rate. This results in unemployment, ladies and gentlemen, because there's only a certain amount of money to go around that businesses can spend on labor. And if they have to spend a larger percentage of it, they're going to hire less labor. That's just simple mathematics. It's just basic addition and subtraction, folks. So, high unemployment leads to widespread evasion of the law. Workers who are employed by companies that pay them less than the legal minimum fail to provide the required health and retirement benefits or both. Jobs are unreported. And this is an example. About a third of Spain's reported unemployment in the black labor market are working at unreported jobs. Okay, so they're listed as unemployed, but they're working under the table at unreported jobs. In fact, this is a little tidbit for you. Spaniards waiting to collect checks from unemployment office have been known to complain about the long lines that keep them from getting back to their unreported jobs. So not only are they collecting checks from the government, they're also actually working. So I ask you, what precisely is this ridiculously high minimum wage accomplishing up there in Spain? By the way, if you go and look at the recent figures, they're hovering between 18 and 20% unemployment. We haven't seen numbers like that in the United States since the Great Depression. I'll leave you with that little tidbit. This is the end of part 7, folks, and I will see you in part 8.